How's it going, wrestling fans? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Wrestle Report Live, episode number 27 with Phil and Don. I am Phil.
I'm Don.
AEW Blood and Guts was just about a week ago now, and people are still talking about it, and we want to give our thoughts on it. Some other good news coming out of AEW about their presumably are going to start touring again. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Throwback Smackdown that wasn't really a throwback, and the Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring episode, parts 1 and 2. We're going to review those as well. So how's it going, Don?
Life is good. You know what I mean?
Sure. So I think the best place to start today is AEW Blood and Guts. Obviously, it was about a week ago, like I said, but it still has plenty of conversation. We have not given our thoughts on it yet. Before we get to the match, though, one thing we talked about last week that we didn't know the answer to until it happened. We didn't understand if they were going to do the whole show live, because the information was out there that if you were going to that show live, that you were basically only going to see the Blood and Guts match. And we weren't totally sure how that was going to go. And it did turn out that the first hour of the show was on like a screen. You know, they pre-recorded it, and then they were going to jump in live. They did like an interview or two, and then they jumped right to the match. Now, the fact that I kind of thought that's what was going to happen, I felt that they kind of told people that was the case, but there apparently was people that either weren't aware of that, just bought a ticket and didn't bother to do their research about it maybe, because some people were, you sent me the Twitter thing about like somebody complaining about it. I'm like, all right, well, that's one person. Let's see how many we get. And It does turn out that there was 5 refunds given. So 5 about out of like 1,000-something people. Sounds like for the most part, those people were just kind of ill-informed. But I will say this, if they didn't do a good enough job letting people know what they were getting into, that's on AEW. But if it was truly just 5 uninformed people, then that's on those people.
True. There might have been more people that just didn't care and they was okay with it.
Yeah.
Because they probably enjoyed themselves at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
I mean, I felt like they did a good. I felt like we knew that going in. We didn't know for sure, but like that topic of it had to have come from somewhere.
I would have thought that. I would have thought that, and we talked about it too. They should have been watching our show.
Yeah,
they said it's going to be pre-recorded first hour. Yeah.
And some people were asking why, and to me, it's pretty simple of a reason. Like, if you were in a normal arena, we've all been to shows that have had like cage matches or Hell in a Cell or even like Elimination Chamber, and they kind of suspend it above the ring and then they bring it down. You can't do that in Daly's place. It's just not set up for that. And I mean, you look at that thing, it wasn't like a normal cage where you just slap up 4 sides. Like, it had the roof to it and everything. And I'm sure the construction of that was a whole ordeal. So it's not like you could just throw it up in a couple of minutes after the first half of the show. So like, I understand. Like, in a normal year, like, the original Blood and Guts was supposed to be in New Jersey, I believe. I forget what the name of the arena is there. I'm sure if you did it there, they could have, just done it and suspended it down like normal. So to me, I get why they had to do it this way. I understand why some people might not have been happy about it, but at the end of the day, if you were going to the show, you were going to see Blood and Guts. I mean, there was some okay matches leading. The 4-way tag was entertaining. I was, kind of predictable that SCU would win. I remember hoping that the Varsity Blondes were going to get a big win, off the back of the Brian Pillman thing that we'll talk about. Not only did they not do that, but they pinned Brian Pillman. So they did the exact opposite thing that I thought would happen. So there's that. And then, the Moxley Kingston match against Nakazawa and Omega. I got it half right. I thought Omega wasn't going to show up at all, but he ended up like halfway through the match saying, this isn't worth it, and left. So like, I was kind of half right there, but like, nothing groundbreaking happened. I guess, QT and Cody, like, that's got a little bit of a feud going. Like, I'm sure people would have enjoyed seeing that in person, but like, you didn't miss anything monumental. You didn't miss any title matches pre-recorded or whatever. And from the quick videos I saw, there weren't people like rioting about it. Like, once they realized what was happening, they were like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. Because people were tweeting out that the cage was already set up. So my thought was maybe like, oh, are they starting the show with it? Which, how do you, and based on what happened and how everything got tore up, there's no way you could have followed that match. Like, you can't follow that match with like a Michael Nakazawa tag team, so you can't really do it any other way. But overall, my stance on it is I felt pretty consistently that they kind of told everybody what was happening. So I don't know. That's on the couple people. And some people, I mean, it's the same people that go to a restaurant, they eat like 70% of their meal, and then they complain about it and they get it for free. Like, we could be talking about people like that too. So, I mean, I think for the most part, AEW did a good job portraying that if you're going to this, it's only going to be for the blood and guts match.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents on that. I don't know if I know originally you were like, man, that's messed up if we were texting about it.
Yeah.
That if, you know,
If they didn't tell me.
Yeah, but it's apparently only 5 people asked refunds. They didn't fight the people on the refunds. Tony Khan basically said if you felt like you were misinformed, then that's on us. And they, so I think they handled it as good as they could have, really, once the whole thing went down. Yeah. That being said, we're now to the blood and gut. Do you have any quick notes on any other matches leading up to it?
Matches? Okay, yeah. I got one thing.
Okay.
And this is bothering me. I tweeted about this. I think you retweeted it or you liked it. One of the two. What is a DQ in AEW?
You know what's funny? I don't remember the exact match. It was in the pre-COVID era. But they've only had one DQ in like the history of the company. From what, and I could be, that might not be 100% true, but I remember, again, it was when we had crowds. It was when they were still touring. They literally, to my knowledge, only had one television DQ match. So the quick answer is there really isn't one.
Okay, because right, when it's Cody Rhodes was taking off the belt, right? Mm-hmm. He was acting like he was going to hit him. The referee was telling him, you can't do that. You can't do that. Then QT gets the belt. And QT hits Cody right in front of the referee.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Okay. I'll let that slide. They might say, hey, that's part of Cody's body.
That's part of his attire kind of thing.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. But then Art Anderson gets involved, literally like mushing his head into the steel post. Mm-hmm. That's not a DQ. That is a DQ.
Yeah.
In WWE, that was it. Ring the bell.
But WWE is totally fine with, like, they don't care if the finish is good. So they're like, yeah, do a DQ. I don't care. I remember, I think it was the Shawn Spears match with Cody after he bashed his head in and he had the belt. He had his weight belt off and the referee was like, you do that, you're getting disqualified. And he literally said, like, give me one lick of this. And the ref basically was like, all right, you get one. And he hit him with it once and then they threw it out, which was weird. To me, the WWE equivalent of this is, if you took out a table and put somebody through a table, that's a DQ, right? You know how many matches dudes go through the announce table and that's not a DQ? Because for some reason it's not the same type of table. So, like, I put it up to that. I'll tell you what, I had a bigger problem in that match than the DQ, non-DQ situation. How about QT kicking out of a tombstone pile driver? That was my biggest problem with that match.
That does not happen, bro.
And he fucking planted him, too. It wasn't like, he barely got it. Like, he spiked the dude down. And 2.5. And then he does he crossroads, kicks out of that. And then he hits him with the figure 4 and he taps out. And, like, we all knew Cody was going to win that. But, yeah, for him to – and it's nothing to – really, no one should be doing tombstones. There's really nobody – like, if someone like Lance Archer made it his new finish – I'd be like, all right, cool. But in general, people shouldn't. And granted, he didn't like set up for it. It was more of like a reversal into something. It actually looked kind of natural. So I applaud that. It didn't seem like forced. But no, dude should not be kicking out of the tombstone. Just straight up.
I got one gripe about that whole tombstone.
Okay.
Why did it take so long? Why five reversals, bro?
Just to show off that they could do it. I think it was a little dig on like when Roman and Taker tried to do it and they messed it up, way back when in the WrestleMania match. And they're like, oh, look at our guys just doing, cartwheels about it. That's probably not what it is, but I think it was just like, doesn't it remind me of like, oh, that's what that would have looked like had it been done right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Cody's one of my favorite, AEW wrestlers. He's probably one of my favorite active wrestlers right now. Anyway, I hold to believe that behind Tony Khan, obviously being the most important guy for why AEW started, I think it was Cody's ambition that really got this off the ground too. He's very important to this company, but that doesn't change the fact that a lot of his feuds and storylines are overbooked. Yeah. And they outthink the room on a lot of the stuff. And like, it's him just doing the stuff he would have wanted to do in his matches. And like for the most part, it makes sense. Like the match itself was fine. It felt like two guys with a grudge, and then a Go-Go came out and gave him the gut shot, and like he's gonna, it'll be his first true wrestling match, so you might as well give him someone like Cody to like, protect him and lead him through it. What do you think of? We'll get to Blood and Guts in a second, but since I brought up a Go-Go, what do you think of the gut shot as a finish? Like I didn't like it at first, but it's kind of growing on me.
See, I wouldn't like it if he didn't have a background in boxing.
Sure, yeah.
If he didn't have a background in boxing, then I would be like, what the hell? Mm-hmm. But he was a boxer, like a professional boxer at one point.
Yeah.
So like I could definitely I could get it. I can understand it.
Yeah. And the other part, it's like, why not make it like a knockout punch?
Yeah. But I guess that's the safest way, I guess.
But my thing is, because Mike Tyson is somewhat of a fixture on the show, they don't want two guys with basically using the same move. Because like when Tyson gets involved with someone, that's all he's going to do. He's going to give you a quick jab and like drop somebody. So again, it's unique. Like I can't say I've seen anyone else do it, and he handles it well. Like he makes it very visually appealing, and you like could understand. Like he did like a jobber match on Dark where he like just threw the guy in the corner and gave him one and dropped it. I'm like, that actually looked, because it was a jobber guy, like you shouldn't be dropping someone like Cody. It made sense to do it today because it was after his match and everything. But it sounds odd if you try to explain it to somebody like, oh, this guy's finish is a uppercut basically to the kidneys or whatever. But like I think it comes off pretty well.
I mean, I'm cool with it, bro.
Yeah. Let me know in the comments, anyone out there, what do you think about the gut punch as a finish for Anthony Ogogo? But until we get any comments about that, let's jump into the meat and potatoes, the blood and the guts. We had a lot of blood. I don't know that we got any guts necessarily. I don't know that I wanted to see any guts either. So that's probably okay. So we have to look at this similar to the exploding barbed wire death match in the sense that we have to talk about the match, then we have to talk about the finish, and then we have to talk about the after, like, the final, like Jim Cornette calls it the afterbirth.
There's 3 stages, yo. Jesus.
Yeah. So, firstly, I'm going to go with just the match itself here. And the match itself, I thought was really good. I actually felt that it felt more like a fight than the NXT War Games. The NXT War Games feels to me like Elimination Chamber because they do it every year, and the fact that this is, the first time they've ever done it, they were only going to do it last year. Like it felt like a much more of a fight. It felt like the only way to handle this is to get everybody in here. And like, there are some unique differences between the two, like the NXT and the AEW cage. For example, AEW does have a roof on the cage. That's one of the, the biggest, I'd say the biggest changes. But like the match itself, I think it took it did everything that it was supposed to. And up until like that last like 2-3 minutes, I liked the increments when everybody came in. It felt like everyone that came in affected the match almost immediately. Sometimes like in a Royal Rumble or even in an Elimination Chamber, somebody gets in, they hit like a move or two, and like they kind of like fade into the background that quickly. And this, I felt like everyone as they came in, and here's the one thing, they said they were doing 5-minute increments. There's no way those are 5-minute increments because that would, by definition,
I think it was after the first person came in. I think that's when they did it to 2 minutes.
Okay, because otherwise, by definition, that match would have been 40 minutes just off the increments of people, but it was 40 minutes total. But no, I enjoyed, I felt like everyone that came in affected the match as it happened, and as a match, I thought it was great. And I'll stop there for now. But like the match itself, I thought really delivered as far as like. This felt like 2 groups of guys that wanted to kill each other.
Yeah. Now, I like the match too.
Mm-hmm.
The match was really good. I love Sammy Guevara. I love Santana and Ortiz. I love the FTR. Sean Spears had some good moments in there. Wardlow. I already told you I'm a big fan of Wardlow already.
Yeah.
And then also MJF. He knocks it out the park every single time. The facials and everything. Am I missing? Oh, Jake Hager. Jake Hager is the only one that kills me. But I'm okay with it. I'm 1 out of 10. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
A lot of blood. Yeah. Lots of blood. Cash was bleeding out of his ass. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Camera angles though. they was killing me. The
I was gonna get
commercials,
to that. Yeah.
commercials were killing me, bro. It seemed like this match would have been better if it was on a pay-per-view instead of regular
It
TV.
could have been, and I don't doubt if we ever get another Blood and Guts. I think they know now. Like we tried it, it kind of worked. But yeah, I think if we get another one in like a year or two, it will be on. It'll be on a pay per view, so you won't have to worry about it that way. I think.
Yeah.
Or
at least like commercial free, you know.
Yeah. So somebody brought up a great point. Like they could, if you get someone to sponsor a match the way they did, like the Godzilla vs Kong for the Bear Country versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. If they would have gotten like, I don't know if a movie's out now that would like correspond with it or whatever, but like you get someone, Blood and Guts brought to you by, I don't know, Powerade. I'll just throw something out there. You could then broadcast that match commercial free. So that is something they could maybe want to look into.
True.
Real quick, Billy chimed in. He says the gut punch versus Paul White's KO punch. I would like to see that down the line because it would have, everyone remembers Floyd Mayweather versus Big Show at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
so it would have a little bit of
little
bit of stuff like that. And Billy says, yeah, I should have thought of that. Cracker Barrel can sponsor Blood and Guts because that's like the unofficial sponsor of the Elite in the first place. So they did that at All In at the time. But yeah, like, and Go is, I think, bigger than Mayweather. So if they ever wanted to go that route and, like, give Paul, because I think it's no secret Paul White's going to have, like, a match or two. Yeah, like maybe like 5 in the next 2-3 years or something like that. So that is something I'd like to see. Camera angles. I do want to start there, too. There was definitely points where we saw some stuff that we maybe weren't supposed to see. And you're talking to the perfect two guys to tell you this here. Whenever you see a bad camera angle, never blame the camera person. You blame the director. Because if the shot's not what you want, it shouldn't be on TV.
It shouldn't be there.
So you can blame the guy for maybe not being where he's supposed to be, but he's kind of sitting in that position waiting for his shot to be worth using, I guess is the best way to put it. And then like your director can tell you, no, I don't like that. Go around the other side, shoot somebody else, get a crowd shot. It's called selling your shot. You kind of set up and the director either uses you, says, hold that for a second, I'm going to get you after this, or I don't like it, find something else. That's the general gist of how that goes. So if a director saw a shot of like somebody communicating or something, and then still went with that, I don't know who their director is. In WWE, it's always easy to shit on Kevin Dunn. I don't know who the director is in AEW for this. But some of the camera angles we got were great. And then, of course, we'll talk about in the ending how, like, a different camera angle we'd have a whole different narrative, I think, on this. Hi, Cardinals fan.
What's going on?
So we're going to go with so that's the match. I think we can agree the match itself was great. I think, like, it felt like everything we wanted it to. It was brutal. I like I'm calling it from, like, Captain America Civil War when both teams finally get in. And then ran right to the middle. I love I think it was Sean Spears with Sammy did like a flux capacitor almost. They both jumped to the middle ropes that were next to each other. And I think he calls it the Spanish Fly. Thought that was great. Something that's gone completely under the radar here because of everything else that's happened. When Sean Spears got in, he brought in his chair and he gave somebody a headshot. I'm pretty sure it was Sammy. He got his hands up. It didn't look terrible. I mean, it could have looked. It wasn't like the Cody one where he just like beans the guy. But when that happened, I'm like, oh no, that's gonna be a story like in the next couple of days. But so much shit happened after that like I'm the first person I've really thought brought it up.
Yeah, man. Those moves that they was doing, like it looked like them boys was laying into it.
Yeah.
I liked how Wardlow over here just was ragdolling everyone. Like it was a 3-on-1, I think it was. It was like Santana, Ortiz, and Sammy versus Wardlow, and he got past all three of them guys. I thought that was pretty cool.
I love the dead president's face paint that Santana and Ortiz had on. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it right away, and then I looked it up. I was like, yeah, okay, I get what they're saying now.
And that's one of my favorite movies of all time too. Yeah. Dead president. So once I saw that,
what'd you think of the jumpsuits for the Inner Circle?
I mean, I don't know. It seemed like he was throwing shots at Jim Cornette because that was Jim Cornette's old promotion. Was
Well, everybody had basically. It's a weird way to put this, but they almost had their like hometown penitentiaries on the back of their stuff. Like Cash and Dax had like something from the Carolinas, and Hager had some Oklahoma-based place. But yeah, the Stony, it was like it didn't say Smoky Mountain, it was like Stone Mountain or something, which apparently is a real penitentiary in Canada. So while it probably also was a shot at Cornette, I think it was like, oh, I can put this because technically I could just say it's this place. But it looked better on some guys than others. Hager's almost looked too big for him, which he's a big dude. He's a big dude, but he's like a slender dude too. So it was like it looked like it would have fit someone's Wardlow size, and then they gave it to him. Really cool touch. The heels wearing all the white gear, which was great because they ended up bleeding a lot, so it just added to it.
It was a good visual.
It was interesting, though. They went with white and purple, so they almost looked like the evil version of the Dark Order or the good version of Dark Order, however you want to put it. So I thought purple was an interesting highlight color, but in general, I think it worked out. What do you think about let's make sure I didn't touch anything else I didn't touch. There was one or two times that I think it was Ortiz, he fell between the ring and the cage. And granted, that wasn't supposed to happen, but it almost made the whole thing look that much more dangerous. Yeah. Like he didn't fall in a terrible way. He like hit a move and went to roll, and he just kind of like fell between it.
Right into it, between the cage and the ring,
Yeah, that really added something for it to me. I didn't love, before we get to the ending itself, I didn't love that they got out of the cage, because that's the whole point of War Games, is when you put
keep everyone inside.
Like if you did this in the NXT version that has no roof and you threw somebody off of it, like fair play, because there's nothing preventing you from doing that really. But so I guess and this happened during a commercial break too, which I actually will touch on this first. I guess Tully like knocked over a referee and
got the key
and got the keys or whatever. We didn't see that on the. So this match was, I think it was like 34 minutes, they said, and there was like 8 minutes of it in a commercial break. So that's easily like a quarter to a third of it, which is way too long. If you have to, I think there was 4 different commercial breaks. If you could have got that down to like 2, I don't think I would have really complained, because there are times in this match that you could have put it. But by the third one, I was like, all right, this really needs to be the last one. And then I had to hit you with one more. So like, I agree. I appreciate them trying to give you this on free TV. I actually do. Like there's other ways it could have gone, but like this is like Hogan Goldberg on Nitro. Like this could have been a pay-per-view record setter, and the next one will be, is the thing. Like in a year or two, because you can't do this too often. Because one, the story has to matter for it. You can't just like, oh, yearly War Games, let's find 2 teams. Like it doesn't work that way in AEW. It can in NXT. To an extent, because they've kind of made it that way. But I didn't love that they escaped the cage, because to me the whole point of it is you can't leave. You're locking you in the cage for a reason.
And you know what was funny too, when they came back when they came back into the from the break, MJF was up already, right?
Yeah.
And Jericho was climbing. If you look in the picture, you can see Jericho stalling.
Yes, he was waiting for
Yeah, he was waiting for the cue to finally climb up. Then when they got out of the break, you can see him finally going up.
Yeah,
and I thought that was pretty stupid to do that, but okay, I guess it's okay. And then what was killing me as well with the commercials was they was doing the picture in picture, and then like the last 2, maybe 3 commercials, they'll go and complete and take out the picture in picture.
Yeah.
So that was like, oh man, come on, man, killing me. This is when, I guess, because it was on Fight too.
Yeah,
you could watch it on Fight.
Yeah, internationally, you can watch it on Fight with no commercials.
Yeah.
So I guess if you got a VPN, you could make that happen for yourself, and watch it that way. I will say this though: when they got to the top and he had the Walls of Jericho on him, and he gives him like the ball shot to get out of it. I thought that was actually kind of cool. How that all worked. I truly thought, because if you look at the cage, the center of it was made of a different type of wiring, and I thought someone was going through it. I thought that was, I don't know if it was going to be a back body drop, but I thought somebody was going through the cage back into the ring. That's where I thought they were going with that. That obviously didn't happen. I don't know, because MJF does that heat seeker pile driver, So I don't know if maybe he was gonna do that where they both like come crumbling back down and then you find some ending once you're in the cage. That's truly where I thought it was going. But instead he, threatens to throw him. Here's my biggest problem. Once they get to the top, we never see the ring again.
Yeah, I said the same thing,
just stop. And you kind of see people moving around, and I assume there was some punches thrown and some shit, but like for all intents and purposes, that the rest of the match doesn't take place down there at all.
Yep.
And what do you think about the surrender finish in the first place? Let's start there.
All right. I'm okay with the surrender finish because that's how it is as that's how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But what killed it, what just killed it for me was I didn't see nothing. I don't know how did Sammy Guevara get outside the ring?
I assume whatever opening they had. Yeah, I mean, out of all the things wrong with this,
that was a real nitpick. Yeah,
sure, yeah. So I liked so that's the other biggest difference between an NXT War Games is they allow pinfalls, and the original War Games was submission or surrender, which is what AEW does, and that's truly how it should be. Because otherwise, if you can do a pinfall in War Games, just do an elimination chamber, because that's kind of the point of the elimination chamber being created back when. So I liked the thought of the surrender because it sets a premise that this is how surrenders happen, and it makes sense for the heels to win that way. That way they didn't truly beat the baby faces, right? They outsmarted them. It's hard to be heels in a War Games because usually to be a heel you got to cheat, and you can't cheat in a match that has no rules. So they found a way to cheat or be cheap in a match with no rules, in my opinion. And my biggest problem with the ending is you see Sammy like in the bottom left corner, like waving his hands, like we surrender. We didn't get a camera shot of him doing it. We could hear him. We kind of saw him in the corner, just added more of the like iffy director work, I would say, because I can't imagine there wasn't one shot on Sammy. Like they're not going to have your 6 camera guys all doing the same shot up at the top, in my opinion. So I didn't like that we didn't see Sammy. He's very good with his emotions and stuff. You could probably have had a great visual of him like looking really concerned for Jericho and everything. So that I'm okay with the surrender. I think we should have got a shot of Sammy like really doing the pros and cons of what he's doing, because obviously MJF's threatened to throw Jericho off the thing. And then realistically, so I think we were both in agreement the ending itself was fine. It maybe could have been better, but like I don't have any huge gripes with it.
Once again, camera angles and stuff. We could have got if we would have got the shot of Sammy actually surrendering. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. That's my biggest gripe with the cameras. I mean, the way this is set up, I don't think Daly's Place is the easiest venue to navigate for your camera crew. But that's not a huge excuse because they've been there long enough to know what they can do and not do.
Yeah, they've been a whole year now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll give him a little bit of slack, but not a lot. Then when he falls off the cage, or pushes him off the cage, really, but I think what they should have done, and we have a perfect premise for this. I understand Jericho's 50, but Shane McMahon basically did a swanton bomb off of the cage at WrestleMania. If you'd have grabbed Jericho by the hair and the belt loop and flung him where he did a front flip, would have made it a lot more of a thing, a lot more of a visual appearing thing. And then obviously we now know about the crash pad, right? And I think we've all seen this alternate angle. I remember tweeting it to you. It's basically, we saw everything from the left side looking right. There's an amazing angle of this from the right side looking left, where when he breaks into the stuff, you see no crash pad at all. So if you would have kept it there and then just showed that replay, and then eventually when you move Jericho a little bit, you get a tight up on his face so you don't see the crash pad or whatever. There's a version of this that looks amazing. This isn't like the barbed wire exploding match. Like there's nothing you could do. That just sucked. That was nobody's fault. Whatever happened. But there's a version of this. The fact that there was a camera angle out there that would have made this look amazing, and they didn't go to it. That's the biggest tragedy on all this for me.
Yep.
Because we've seen at least 4 angles of it, and they went with the worst one.
The complete worst one. I can understand like why you want to get the close up of him looking, coming down. But what you do is when you got him going down, that's when you switch it to that far right camera, and you can get the cage and the ground without looking at the crash pad, and you can
Yeah.
see that this cardboard as steel.
Yeah. And I do want to clear up one thing. Some people were complaining that, like, oh, AEW claimed that it was concrete there. No, they did not. They were saying the other, not the stage, because we know the stage is wood. We have a premise for this. Moxley and Brody Lee went through that same wooden stage. We know that's wood right there. So that they're not claiming that's concrete. But the other stuff, the other three sides, if you would have, been crazy and jumped off that side, then you hit concrete. I think that was just a little like lax in, understanding of what they were referring to there by the announcers. But they did something similar to this for Stadium Stampede when they did the One Winged Angel. And you could kind of tell there was a pad there, but nobody really, that match was meant to be goofy, so nobody really thought anything of it. Mm-hmm. I think you fix this whole thing by taking that crash pad and just having it maybe another foot lower. That way when he hits, like, his feet are kind of hanging out and his arms, and he's like, you just wouldn't really see, put a little, maybe another layer of wood down there or something. But I think if you just, because it was like a studio grade stuntman crash pad, it was probably like 2-3 feet thick, right? So if you just lower it another, foot or two, I think this whole thing gets avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I said the same thing though. Like that killed the match for me in general, and just by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Great sucks because it was a great match. Like we said, it was probably one of my favorite matches that AEW actually had.
Yeah.
But they're killing me with these weak finishes.
Yeah.
Because when we had the barbed wire match, and then this match, these gimmick matches for them is not looking good for them.
Yeah, the finishes to the gimmick matches seem to be their issue. I'll take it a step further. I'll combine both of my theories here. If you make that pad, put that pad on the floor, right? That way, like when he breaks and when he hits that pad, let's say there's 5 feet. You make him do the frontward roll, and he breaks through it, and you don't even see him. And then you wait, like you see everyone's horrified faces, which they did eventually get good shots of that. If I'm going to talk crap about the cameras, I'm also going to talk good about it. Everybody, even like the Pinnacle side of things, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. You make it so that he falls all the way through and you don't see him at all. You get all those shots, and then you get the EMTs in there trying to pull Jericho up out of the heap. That would have been a great visual.
Yeah. Now, I just want to know what they're going to do on Wednesday now. Is Jericho written off? Is that Jericho getting written off?
I think for a little bit, at least. And I think and MJF can really make this all go away by saying, you bet you're lucky, you're lucky that there's a crash pad there, or you'd be dead. I would have killed you when I did that. Like, you'd be lucky that someone thought to put a pad there in case something went down. Like, there's a million ways. Kind of like the Moxley and Kingston thing. They were able to cover up the barbed wire as best they could, obviously. But what makes this one worse for me is there's 4 different versions of this that would have looked great. Like the possibilities are endless if you knew you wanted to do it this way. I think you just leave the stage the way it is on normal, because if you notice this for this show, nobody walked down that middle. They walked, to left or right once they got through the thing. You could have left it like normal, made that plywood really bare, and just put the crash pad 5 feet underneath the stage. So when Jericho went through it, he would then land safely. I think would be the best way to handle that. So great match. I'll end it this way. Great match, good finish, and then bad, afterwards.
Yeah.
The fact of threatening to throw him off, he wins the match, and then he throws him off anyway. That's great heel work. I don't think anybody's disproving that.
Oh yeah. I see. I knew it was gonna happen. Like if I knew one of them was gonna get thrown off.
Yeah.
Just didn't know which one.
Yeah, I think I just for forever I thought someone was going through the cage, but it went off that way. But overall, I again like the match. I don't even mind the ending. MJF's going to find a way to spin this into a positive, because maybe here's the other thing, and I just thought of this now. Tully broke the cage so that they could get out. Maybe this was the plan all along. Like, let's get Jericho to the cage. I'll threaten to throw him off. His team's going to have to surrender. Yeah, we'll put a pad there. I'm not trying to kill the guy. I just want to win the match. Like even something, and that's not like a foolproof thing, but like there's ways around. Like I thought of that in 2 seconds. I'm sure they can come up with something better. So any other thoughts? Oh, you said overall, great match, good ending, bad, post match credit, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
Bad landing, I guess. And again, if you haven't seen it, I'll tweet it out again. The reverse angle of this looks amazing. So it's a shame that they couldn't just use that.
Mm-hmm.
So you got any, before we move on, you got any other thoughts on this show in general?
In general, fine. I felt like they should have hit more than what they got on the ratings.
I mean, they broke a million again, which was great to see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but supposedly they went down. Supposedly.
They went down a little, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was like 1.15 and they got 1.09. So, yeah, they went down like 100,000 people or something. Yeah.
And then also, like, I guess they was the number one rating.
Show on cable.
Show on cable, yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool first time that's happened to them. So congrats for that. Yeah. Other big AEW stuff, full capacity for Double or Nothing on May 30th. So, Don, if you don't have any plans, I've already been talking with the guys. We might have to make a little road trip. We'll talk more about that later. And then starting July 7th, they will be touring again. They're going to go to Miami, and then they're doing, I think it's Houston and Austin or Dallas and Austin, but I know Austin's in there because I know a friend that's going to be going to that. Texas makes sense. They're the only place opened up more than Florida. So, I mean, they can double back and hit Tampa or Orlando or, Georgia's done a pretty good job opening up. They're going to be that Southern wrestling company for probably through 2020. I think you might get lucky and get like Vegas or something if you can pull that off. But like, I think a small regional tour again of just Southern states is going to, like the crowds have been great for what they can have, but like, I call it impact zone syndrome. Like Impact was shot in Orlando for a decade and a lot of the same people went, and there was a lot of good stuff that didn't get the results that it maybe would have, cause they just had jaded fans after a while. Like it's bound to, no matter how great of a show is, if you go to the same, it's like if you saw your favorite comedian every month for a year, eventually he's going to get a little less funny is the way I put it. So like to get these guys in front of fresh eyes again, and like the pops they're going to get, I can't wait. July 7th is the first. It'll be full capacity in these Texas arenas and in Miami. So I'm very much looking. Those are going to feel like pay-per-views, even if they're just standard dynamites, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it'll be definitely cool, especially because we don't know what's going to go on with WWE, so they might be the first ones to actually be full capacity.
There was rumors that they want to do a crowd with SummerSlam and then use SummerSlam as their kickoff to tour again too. So I mean that would be great to see. One last thing on AEW before we jump to WWE stuff. The whole thing with Darby Allin getting thrown down the stairs, that looked pretty brutal. That was probably the worst bump of the night. And now he's defending the TNT title against Miro, and they even threw in if he can't compete, he forfeits the title anyway. So I think he's gonna limp to the ring on this, and Miro's going to destroy him, and it's going to make him look fine because, like, you can't expect anything else. So if that's the way they go, I think it's a good move. But, like, Miro as TNT champion is going to intrigue a lot of people if that does, in fact, happen on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I would also be upset if I was Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, because they're the ones that actually threw him off.
Yeah.
Where's my title match?
Well, I think they could probably work out a thing with like, oh, we help Miro out, so we're going to get it. I think we're going to eventually get Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky against Darby and Sting in like a true tag match in a ring with an arena, because those are two very safe wrestlers. So that's a good way to get Sting in a real match. So I could see that happening at Double or Nothing or whatever the case. So we're going to jump here to, I think that's all the AEW news really. Going to jump to SmackDown, and we right before we went off last episode, Don said everyone tuned in to SmackDown. They're doing a throwback episode, and I was really excited for it. And I tuned into it, and to say that I was disappointed is an understatement. The first thing I said was, "I hope we get the fist," and we didn't really get it for the stage. We got like I didn't even know because I turned it on maybe a minute or two late, but apparently there was like the virtual fist they threw in there for a minute, and then so that was so, and then the graphics package they were using was like the 1980s WWF logo. And that's easily 15 years before SmackDown ever came on the air. Mm-hmm. So this was just a cluster of throwback material that they used in this. And the show itself, which we'll talk about probably for a minute, it was a good episode of SmackDown, but it had no business being a throwback episode. I will say Pat McAfee dressed as old school Vince McMahon with the blazer was hilarious. Michael Cole going with the Canadian tuxedo, the all denim that he was wearing, from his like OG days. That was funny. But yeah, they showed you some flashbacks of old like classic SmackDown moments. But like the live show itself had no business being a throwback episode, in my opinion.
All right, so I have one thing to say.
Okay.
I had no problems with it. I wanted the fist too as well. The thing that I don't know if you noticed, but Fox actually had a whole week of like throwback stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that was like they just told WWE, we're doing a throwback week for Fox. Go ahead and do this, and I think they just went back to like WWF days with the logo and all that stuff. But yeah, it would have been nice if they had the fists, or at least the circles, the ovals.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two really memorable versions of SmackDown. So either one would have been fine. Mm-hmm. And like I remember a couple years ago, they did Classic Raw, I think is what they called it, and they did that up right. Like that, the ring was great. They brought back all the graphics made sense for that old school Raw. I think they even did it in the Manhattan Center, which was the birthplace of Monday Night Raw. Of course, obviously, you can't fault them for what arena they're doing it in right now. Not that SmackDown ever had a home like that. It was always a touring show. But the show itself was good. I think you're right. Maybe it was just kind of thrown together, but like, you can't tell me they don't have all that stuff dialed up, all those old graphics packages and stuff. Like, it shouldn't be super hard to have that together. But the show itself was pretty good. We got the return to Jimmy Uso, and there was immediate friction with him and Roman. He said, "You don't get to talk to me the way you've been talking to him." So I'm very interested to see how that's going to go. And then Cesaro officially punched his ticket to Backlash. I'm not going to call it WrestleMania Backlash because it's stupid. But they need to be careful how they handle this, because if they're not, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love for Cesaro to win the title. I think it'd be huge. I think they should find a way to save it for SummerSlam in front of people, if that's truly going to be the kickoff of fans back, and touring and all that. If they can find a way to stretch that, and SummerSlam might end up being earlier than normal. Usually it's in August. It's usually the last week of summer, oddly enough. And there's been talks of moving it up to June because they want to get touring early. So that would be great if that happens. That's all speculation. But if you can drag this out and then have Cesaro win the title there, I think it'd be fantastic. But I'm interested to see what they do for the match at Backlash. I think it could be a great match. I just don't want them to. Cesaro hasn't lost a match on TV apparently in like nearly a year or just over a year. So they need to be really careful how they handle that, moving forward.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I think Cesaro, of course, Cesaro's going to lose this match. It's either this is going to happen. Cesaro's going to lose this match straight up, or there's going to be a DQ finish.
I'm thinking DQ.
Or Jimmy causes Roman to lose. I
could see that. This can go a couple ways. I said you just gotta be careful. You finally put Cesaro in a spot that he deserves to be in, and tread carefully with it, and handle it,
But I also don't think Cesaro is going to be the guy to take the belt off of Roman.
Do you have somebody in mind then?
Yes, bro. Big E, bro. Big E.
I mean, I'm down for that too. But I mean, if you're gonna put Cesaro in this spot, this needs to at least culminate with him winning the IC title and holding it forever. If he's not the guy to beat Roman. Like, let him beat Apollo at SummerSlam and hold that title for 8-10 months or whatever it's going to be. Like that I would be down for. Again, overall, pretty good episode of SmackDown. Just the throwback it seemed forced. And like you said, maybe it was because Fox was like, hey, do this. And like, we didn't really plan for that, but okay. Like, so, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. But, overall, again, good show. Just weird trying to shoehorn all that stuff in there. Yeah. I got one more bit of like WWE content to talk about. Last episode I talked about it's weird that they're doing stuff with A&E because it's not the biggest like cross-promotional thing for them. I got to walk back some of my comments because apparently, and I was able to find this out, you download their app or you like put their app on like Roku, a lot of the WWE content is free. Like you literally just have to get on there and watch it. Like it's you don't even have to log in to do it. So
for A&E?
Yeah. So if you haven't watched like the what I'm about to talk about, like the Hidden Treasure show, which I've become, really hooked on so far with 3 episodes, especially the one with Jerry Lawler. That one really hooked me. Apparently you can just kind of go on the app and those episodes are free. They probably won't be free forever, but like they're free right now. I love the Hidden Treasure shows so far. My only issue with it is these treasures aren't really hidden. Like they call Jerry Lawler and they're like, hey, we're looking for that robe that you debuted in on Raw. Do you have any idea where it is? And he's like, yeah, it's in my garage. And then they like go down there and they haggle with them to like, whatever, get the thing or whatever. The Undertaker Kane episode, I don't know if you've seen that, was really cool. They found, Undertaker's like purple gear and the mask that he wore. They found Kane's debut, maybe not debut mask, but his second mask, I think they figured out that it was, and some other good stuff. And they're I think this will end with WWE having a virtual, like a physical Hall of Fame that you can go to somewhere one day, because that might be the reason they're getting all this. But this did get me thinking. We have not done a top 3 in a while, and the show has really got me thinking that if you yourself could have 3 physical items that you would consider a WWE treasure, what would they be? And my one stipulation to this is none of them can be belts, because otherwise all of mine would be belts. Yeah, so we're going to make physical items from the wrestling universe. We're going to call it WWE, anything that WWE would own, like network-wise, WCW, ECW, whatever you want to call it. So I'll let Don go first. What are your top 3 WWE treasures that you would love to own?
All right, so top 3. Okay, so I have Mankind's first mask.
Okay.
Number 1. Mm-hmm. It's Mankind, and let me reverse that. Let me scratch that off. Virtually scratch this off. So we're gonna do Mankind when Mankind got thrown off the Hell in a Cell.
That mask.
I want that mask.
Okay.
I want the blood still on it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I want that mask.
Nice.
Number 2, just because he's my favorite wrestler of all time, I want the last beer. I don't know if you remember when Stone Cold retired. Mm-hmm. His last match against The Rock, he drank a beer and he put it on the ring. Mm-hmm. I want that beer.
That can.
That can. That
good
beer
stuff.
Can. All right, and then number 1. This is just mainly because I want to see it and laugh every single time I see it.
Yeah.
I want the Shockmasters, helmet.
That is good, sir. That is good shit, to quote Vince McMahon. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. I thought I had a kind of unique one on here, but I think that takes the cake for sure. Do you have any honorable mentions before I go?
Honorable mentions. I'll take the table that got smashed by when Jeff Hardy jumped off the ladder, the first triple threat TLC match.
Okay. Piece of the table.
Yeah, I want a piece of the table. Nice. And if I would just do one last one, I'll take a Kane's mask, his debut mask.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna start almost where you left off. My number 3 is a Kane mask, but it's not any Kane mask. It's the 2003 style, the one that he unmasked wearing, the one that's cut from the mouth where he was like speaking and stuff. That's my favorite version of Kane, and obviously the lore of Kane has always been his mask. And I think we all remember, like, there's no way they're actually gonna unmask him, that night. And he. I think it was in Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken, and he like goes off on RVD because I was his tag team partner. And that particular mask, that style is my favorite, and the significance of like that being the one that he unmasks in.
Okay, that's a good one.
I mentioned that I'm a big Jerry the King Lawler mark and everything, and I would like any crown that that he's had. Particularly,
I had that on my list too, bro.
Did you? So he's got some pretty iconic looks. The 2 main ones being like black with red, and then his like blue with white. I've always been partial to the blue and white crown. So like if I can get my hands on one of those, it would definitely be that. And then here's number 1. This one I like because if you just look at it, you wouldn't think it's anything special unless you knew that you had what you had. I want the microphone that CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb in on with whatever you want to say.
Yeah, that's That's a good one right there.
So that would be my
That's
number
a
one.
historic moment right there.
Yeah, I wonder if they even know where that
Yeah.
particular. Because what are the odds? They probably just got thrown in a bin with everything else. Unless he has it, that would be funny if he just left with that night and threw it in his bag and went home. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, because that was one of those things you maybe didn't know how big of a deal it was the second it happened, so you don't think to preserve that exact thing. You know,
Mhm.
for all we know, that microphone just went back in rotation and it got used in a Santino Marella segment the next week. Like you have no idea of knowing. But if there was ever a way to track that down, I think that would be pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Honorable mentions, I got a Stone Cold Steve Austin vest. Really, any of them. I mean, you mentioned his last match. I think the DOA one that he wore in his last match would definitely be a good one here. Before I get to, I'll do my one more honorable mention, and then Billy actually is gonna throw some in here. When Cody did when he got his face broken from Rey Mysterio and he was dashing Cody Rhodes, and then he wore the clear mask and he thought he was ugly and he was putting paper bags on people's heads. I thought it'd be pretty interesting to have that clear mask that he was wearing back then, because it was kind of the first time, between going from dashing Cody Rhodes to that is when people started seeing this guy kind of makes all gimmicks work. It would be a kind of unique thing here. Real quick, those are our top three. We're bringing the top threes back. We kind of had to go away from them for a while, but I wanted to start with that. We already have ours planned for next week too, so stay tuned for that. But no, WWE Treasures, I really like the show so far, and I'm interested to see some other things there. I wouldn't mind there were some obvious ones you could, like a Jim Cornette tennis racket, of course, would have been awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite wrestler is always Jeff Hardy. I couldn't really think of you can always get like his fishnets or something. Like there's not like an iconic piece of anything that I could think of from him. So that was a little difficult to really base it off of. And again, if there was belts like if the original FTW belt from ECW, or the Oval IC title, like the one that's behind me that Cody retired, like something like that, because that was my original favorite belt design. So Billy says Hogan's boa, Taker's hat, and Flair's robe. That's a very easy who's who of that. Yeah, no doubt. But no, great show. I look forward to continuing to watch it. I hope I don't know how many of those they're going to do, so they're probably going to keep it pretty relevant. Like the Jerry King Lawler one ends with them finding the neck brace that Andy Kaufman wore, which was pretty crazy when all that went down.
I don't know if you saw NXT last week, but the AJ Francis, the guy that hosts that show, he actually debuted last week.
He had a match?
Yeah, well, he didn't have a match, but he caught in that Leon Ruff versus Swerve.
Oh, was he in the street? Got caught in the street fight?
He got caught. Yeah, he got caught when Leon Ruff had jumped off the balcony.
Okay.
And AJ Francis caught him and do a modified FU.
Okay.
Onto the barricade, and nice. I guess he's a part of the stable with Swerve now.
Okay, that's what's up. So I got to check it out and see.
Yeah, Swerve got a nice thing going on.
Yeah,
he got Adonis, and this one chick. I don't know who she is, but I'm gonna get to know her.
I did just think of one other honorable mention I got to throw in there. The vest that AJ Styles wore when he debuted at the Royal Rumble, because I was there, so that makes it extra special. I did want to throw that in there too. So as we wrap up tonight, we do want to mention Dark Side of the Ring Season 3 is in full effect. We teased it last week. We're going to talk about it now. The Brian Pillman episodes 1 and 2 have aired. The first one was kind of a teaser they threw on for free, and then you got the whole 1 and 2 aired in succession, I think a couple days ago, and I've watched them both since. The first one is all the way to the peak of the Brian Pillman, and then really the second parter was a lot of the negative stuff, like the dark part of the story, really. And this really showed people what Brian Pillman Jr. is all about, I feel, is what this second episode did, because apparently he's always been talked about as like a big gamer, and he's like, oh, dude loves video games, but he almost loves video games for the wrong reasons. He was basically totally locked in his room all the time and literally could do nothing else. So he learned to love video games, which is I think we all like video games to an extent, but for that to be the reason is kind of heartbreaking. And I mean, I don't know anyone that's seen his work and in AEW or anywhere else and hasn't cheered for the guy. But I think now is the time to really push him to the moon, because off of this, I think people are really going to see how big of a babyface he can be and everything. And I don't think a lot of people realize that if this didn't happen to Brian Pillman, he probably could have been as big. I don't know about bigger, but on the level, he could have been the Stone Cold's forever rival. He would have been his Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. He would have been his Ciampa Gargano. He would have been the fight forever guy for Austin. And because of that, you look at the main guys that came out of the era, Triple H, Rock, and Austin. If Pillman stays on the course he's on, one of those other two guys maybe don't hit main event status because he'd be taking that other slot.
Yeah, like, you also got to think about it too. If Triple H didn't do what he did, Triple H it might have been as well.
Yeah. So,
since he talked about Triple H.
Yeah, so easily, like Austin, like if two things change, Brian Pillman could have been in that Austin slot in a weird way too. But yeah, I mean, again, these guys do great work, and the Pillman one, it was rough to. The family matters in it, like with the second wife and how like the first his first wife took her life from not being able to see the kids and everything, because like Brian Pillman Jr. and his sister and stuff, they really tell all in this, and it's a hard story to watch. Next, before I'll tease next week's as we get out of here, but any other thoughts on that? Again, it was great. We've all knew the story of Pillman, but like this really, I didn't know all of this. And
I didn't know all of it as well. I knew. I would say I know a majority of it. Like I didn't know that he got in a car accident. That's why he was in the wheelchair a lot. And he was barely wrestling. I didn't know that the whole WCW thing.
When me neither. I didn't know that.
He WCW. I didn't even know he was in ECW. I forgot all about that.
I vaguely remembered that. I didn't remember anything of significance, but I knew took a quick time in there.
But the whole I love the fact that they basically gave you behind the scenes of the infamous he has a gun.
Yeah, because we all knew that happened, but they kind of sweep that under the rug. So to actually see that done the proper way, and find out everything about it, it makes a lot more sense in context now too. Honestly.
Yeah.
So no, it's a great episode. It's, as all these are, can be tough to watch at times, but you definitely learn a lot about someone whose name comes up a lot, but you never get to know the full story, and now you do. Great work from these guys. Next week's episode is on Nick Gage, someone I don't know a whole lot about. He's kind of the king of the deathmatch type of guy, from what I understand. So I'm looking forward to that one because I know nothing about it, and it'll be cool to learn that whole story. And we mentioned last week they doing Dark Side of Football, but it's not done by these same two people, these same two directors. And you can tell, because I watched the first episode, and it's fine, but it's got a whole nother vibe to it. You can tell if you watch the early Dark Side of the Ring, they were still figuring out their formula, and you can tell these guys are figuring out their formula. It's about, first one's about diva wide receivers in the NFL, and it's really, after the first 10 minutes, it's all about Chad Johnson. So, I'm a big Chad Johnson fan. Definitely check it out if you are as well. But I think other than that, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you all for checking it out. We'll see how AEW rebounds from Blood and Guts on Wednesday. We got NXT tomorrow on Tuesday. And hope everyone enjoys the week of wrestling. And with any luck, we'll see you next week on Monday. Have a good one, guys.
Peace.